I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Andrew Chesnutt, a friend of SVS. He's also one of our speakers early in January this year, and he's come back to talk about a different topic, which is how to become the go-to expert in your industry. Andrew, I turn it over to you.
Cool. Thank you very much. Just one second while I get everything else set up here, because that's always fun. All right, there we are.
Sure.
Cool. So I want to ask you a question. We're going to start off with this for right now. Have you ever opened your laptop with every intention of getting a keynote, podcast, something else together, and just stared at a blank screen? I'll tell you, I've done this where it's like, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I get all of that brilliant information in my head out onto paper? And how do I make sure that people understand that I am the expert in my field? I was talking on a podcast just before this with an expert in marketing, and that was one of the things that we see the most often with our clients is that we're brilliant at what we do. It's sometimes really difficult to understand what we're doing. And so today, what I'm going to do is show you how to become the go-to expert in your industry. We're going to cover really high level on this. Here are the big pillars of how to make this work as far as holistically. And then we can go from there. Let's start off first, though, with a little bit about me. For the past 20 years, I've been in the learning industry, and I created high impact content for some of the biggest brands you've probably heard of, Fortune 100 companies. And I realized something about myself. I was good at taking high level information and breaking it down so that the everyday people can understand it. About 8 years ago, I started on a team that helped build two seven-figure companies. And what we did was we started with a webinar. We started with one presentation, and it was on life insurance, and not just any life insurance. It was on a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy called infinite banking. Very difficult concept to understand because it's buying life insurance, but you don't care about the death benefit. I can use it now before I pass away. There's a whole bunch of things that don't make sense about infinite banking and how it works. So I helped develop this one keynote, first one. It ended up building a seven-figure company out of it, and it helped people to understand this really complex thing. And I learned a bunch of things. A, I was really good at explaining. B, I love working with entrepreneurs, and I love helping entrepreneurs to be able to go forward with that. So 8 years of doing that. I recently built the Authority Forge, and I built it for a single reason. I want to help 100,000 entrepreneurs to tell their story in a way that changes lives and sells without feeling salesy and makes them the authority inside their worlds. That's my huge, big goal. Not sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. Right? So let's go into this a little bit. What is authority? Like, what do we mean when we say authority? It's a huge buzzword right now. Authority is what happens when people trust you, what you say before you've even said it. It's not being famous. It's about being trusted. You're the go-to person in your world to be able to, the one person that everyone goes to. Okay. It's made up of three things. Clarity. Can people immediately tell what problem you solve and why it matters to them? Even a great solution, if it's not explained well, will struggle to resonate or to convert. Here's a quick story. When I first was doing that keynote, that infinite banking keynote, the owner of the company, Chris, came and he was frustrated as hell one day. He's like, look, why aren't people getting this? And I had to have a conversation with him. And that conversation went something like this. You've been doing this for 15 years. You're a high-level investment advisor. You can go from point A to point F in a single bound. You're really good at it. Other people need B, C, D, and E filled in to be able to make it work. And once I stepped him back from that and said, we need to have clarity. People need to see how you work into their lives, how you fit into their paradigm. Things change exponentially. Okay. You ever want an exercise in clarity? Teach somebody how to tie their shoes. It's a perfect example of this. Being able to go from point A to point F in one jump. Other people will need you to step them through a process in order to make that work and to get that clarity. Relevance. Does your message speak directly to the right people? The very first thing I do when I bring in a client, especially for keynotes, but for podcasts as well, is who is your client? Who do you want to reach? It sounds super simple, but a lot of people don't think about their audience. They don't think about how it's going to work. They think about, I just want to go out and speak. well, great, but out of 100 people, you might reach like 20 of them that are going to resonate with what you want. So relevance is another thing. Who are your core client, and does this message speak directly to them? Does it make it stupid simple for them to say, you are the answer to my problem? And the third one is consistency. Do you show up in a way that builds familiarity and trust? There needs to be this sort of baseline level of visibility that happens in your career. I was talking to a bunch of marketing people about this as well, where people always just need to see you. You just need to show up, be there, even if you're not getting a lot of traction on it. Really good, another good Chris example of the business that we built. We were showing up on a webinar on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Every single Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, we did this webinar. We called it Ask a Flipping Expert. I think the first 2 months, it was like our moms showed up to it, and that was it. It seemed like no one would show up. We get one, two, three people. The webinar's been going on 8 years, and they're up to about 300 people on it any one Wednesday. But we kept showing up. We kept being there, and people started to say things like, "Oh, that's right, your webinar." They wouldn't show up to the webinar yet, but they were there with it. We were starting to build that authority. They knew it was there, and we started to get that traction. But it takes a while. Most people give up before they've even started. They get to a point, they get frustrated, and they don't do that just constant, let's show up and let's do this. Okay. So if you think about this as the foundation for building authority, if your message isn't clear, relevant, and consistent, you can show up in wherever you want, but people won't connect with it, no matter how good you are at what you do. So authority has nothing to do with how much of an expert you are. It's how much people see you as an expert. Let's talk about this gap really quickly. This is the real problem and why smart entrepreneurs end up getting stuck. You're smart, you're capable, you've done the work, you have the proof. And why does it feel like it's hard to package it all? Being great at what you do isn't the same as being clear about it. And when you're not clear, your platform becomes a chore, not a tool. Now, what does this sound like? I keep meaning to write my keynote, but I never have time. This is like the number one thing that's caused me to start my company, is to be able to help entrepreneurs in this. We're chief everything officers of our companies, and it's really difficult for us to find the time to do it. Or we have all of these great ideas in our head, but it's hard to kind of get it down into a framework. I'm having trouble organizing my thoughts. I wrote something, my slides look like a mess. I call it visual junk food, when you just have a bullet points on a slide, stuff like that. I just want to show up and talk. This is a big one for podcasts. I don't want to deal with all of this text. I want to show up and I want to talk, because they know they need a hand with this. Okay. These aren't talent issues. They're structure and focus issues. Okay. We're going to move on to 3 pillars of authority, and then a couple of things we see go wrong, and then how to actually solve them. The first pillar of authority is the platform that you create. So this is, and you want to think about it like a platform. It's not just one-off things that you're doing. You're building a holistic platform of things. Podcast keynotes, both, is one I would recommend, because I've seen that work the best. Fastest way to build trust. They put your voice and your face and your thinking directly in front of the people you want to reach. And they work because they combine authority by association. That's a great thing with podcasts, getting around people who are on the same level or higher than you are, getting around them, having a conversation. Authority by proximity, message control, which is a huge part of keynotes, and personal connection. That's where stories come in, is this personal connection. Mix those together, and you have a very powerful force behind you. If somebody hears your voice or sees you present live, it absolutely fast tracks the know, like, trust factor. As we all know in sales, people have to know, like, and trust you in order to be able to buy from you. They need to have those 3 things hit first. Okay. So every time you do this, you're not posting your